that horrible, terrible, bad rumor that y'all broke up. Who did that?
Your sister.
Toni Braxton just broke her silence, and she didn't hold back. All those wild rumors about Birdman and the cash money empire, she finally addressed them, and the truth is darker than anyone expected.
Toni Braxton? Right, I don't believe they got married. I think that's a lie. The reason why I think it's a lie because Stella not gonna do nothing without Slim being there or Slim knowing something about it.
Birdman's entire empire, once dripping in luxury and diamonds, is now being linked to strange rituals and twisted energy that's eating him alive. And guess what? Toni might have just confirmed it without even meaning to. For years, people looked at Toni and Birdman like a mystery wrapped in money, the R&B queen and the street mogul. Everyone thought it was some odd fairy tale, but behind those red carpets and private jets was something way more dangerous.
Weird to me when I got the cash money, it was the weirdest thing. I know they had all these artists on the label.
Right.
So I get to the label and then all of a sudden, they let all the artists go, all the other artists go.
Toni didn't fall for Birdman's flash. She fell into his world, a world that looked glamorous from the outside, but felt cursed once you stepped in. When she walked away, it wasn't because she was done loving him. It was because she'd seen too much. That sparkle turned sinister fast, and all that talk about their secret marriage, it wasn't a rumor anymore. It was real. Paperwork was moving behind the scenes, and people close to them were whispering that something went seriously wrong right after they said, "I do." 2 weeks later, the internet blew up. Toni was on social media calling it all cap, scrubbing every trace of their union like she was running from something bigger than heartbreak. That wasn't just denial. That was self-defense. She wasn't dodging embarrassment. She was cutting ties before the darkness pulled her down too. And now those old whispers about what really happens inside cash money, they're getting louder, way louder. People been whispering about strange late night meetings and shady moves inside cash money for years. And now those stories sound a lot more real. Artists like Juvenile been warning about it forever, saying weird things happen behind closed doors that don't add up. And Toni Braxton, she saw it firsthand. She looked that side of Birdman's world right in the face, and it scared her more than any disease ever could. Toni's been through it all. Lupus, heart surgery, near-death scares. She's a survivor. But this was different. It wasn't a medical battle. It was spiritual warfare. She realized she wasn't just dealing with a man. She was dealing with an energy that could drag her straight down if she stayed too close. So she made her move quick, wiped her socials clean, erased their connection, and threw herself back into music and self-care. That wasn't a breakup. That was an escape plan. While Toni was glowing up and getting her strength back, Birdman's whole vibe started falling apart. Cameras started catching him looking off. There's footage of him literally dozing off during shows, slumped in his chair like his body was shutting down. Fans said he looked sick, like something was draining him from the inside. Some joked he was the Black Joe Biden, saying he could barely stay awake. But behind those jokes was real concern. Ever since that Hot Boys reunion tour, clips been flooding social media, Birdman standing under bright lights, eyes rolling, losing focus, mid-sentence, while the crowd looks confused. People in the audience were whispering, "Yo, is he okay?" Some swore it looked like seizures, others said it was a bad relapse. Either way, the man didn't look like himself. Those videos spread like wildfire, faster than his team could cover up. Suddenly, it looked like the empire he built off power and control was starting to crumble right in front of everyone. His closest people tried to quiet it down, but the internet had already seen too much. Not long after the rumors exploded, BG jumped on camera, cracking up like it was all a joke. He said, "Man, Birdman ain't high. He just can't read the teleprompter," and laughed it off like everything was business as usual. According to him, Birdman was fine, no health issues, no relapse, just bad lighting and a little exhaustion. And that's the same story everyone in Birdman's circle keeps repeating. He's good, just tired. But come on, not everyone's buying that. Maybe they're protecting the boss, or maybe they're scared to say what's really going on, because when you see those clips, Birdman half conscious under the lights, mumbling while the crowd stares. It's hard to believe it's just fatigue. It looked like something way deeper, like the life he built was finally taking its toll. Some folks online even said, "That ain't lean, that's karma catching up." And honestly, it's hard to argue. Just think about it. How many artists from that empire have faded away, lost their shine, or straight up disappeared? Big names, once on top of the world, now ghosts in the game. It's like Cash Money drained the life out of people, one deal at a time. Every fallen career, every silenced voice feels like another piece of that empire's soul slipping away. So let's be real. Toni Braxton didn't just leave a man, she escaped a machine, a system that looked golden from the outside but was rotting on the inside. Birdman's name been tied to the word ritual for years, but people got it twisted. Nobody's talking about candles or pentagrams. The real rituals were about power, loyalty, and total control. That's how the game was played. You gave your soul to the label, and the label decided what you were worth. From the outside, Cash Money looked like a music label, but once you peeked behind that glossy image, it moved like a secret society, one that demanded silence, obedience, and sacrifice. Cash Money moved like a secret society, straight up. Every new artist had to prove they were loyal before they could even dream of rocking that diamond-studded logo on their chain. It wasn't just business, it was initiation. Think about it. The infamous kiss on the lips calling him daddy, the matching tattoos. None of that was random or playful. Those were pledges, silent promises that said, "You're mine now." Once you signed that contract, you didn't just join a label, you joined a system that demanded loyalty every single day. Birdman ran his empire like a ritual. He made the routine look like a flex, showing off his cars, stacking cash on camera, tossing chains like golden crowns. But nothing in that world came for free. Every gift came with a message attached. This came from me. Don't forget who put you here. It was Loyalty Theater, a performance where every artist had to play their part or risk losing it all, and the ones who didn't play along, they vanished from the story real quick. Groups like UNLV stopped being mentioned. Names like Kilo G faded into silence. Some even whispered that Kilo's death wasn't random, that he paid the price for speaking out. That's when people started realizing this wasn't about business anymore. This was control, dressed up as family. Then came Lil Wayne, the golden child, who finally pushed back. When he started questioning the money, the contracts, and the so-called family structure, everything cracked open. That's when the mask started slipping. The fairy tale turned into a power struggle. Fans online began piecing it together, saying, "Yo, this ain't no occult ritual. This is a loyalty trap." See, people love to hype Cash Money like it's some dark secret cult, but the truth is colder than that. Birdman didn't need magic. He had manipulation. His rituals weren't about candles and symbols. They were about control, obedience, and ego. The real sacrifices weren't goats or blood. They were freedom, independence, and identity. And Birdman pulled that same move so many times that it stopped being business. It became belief. Even if it was fake, people started treating him like he was untouchable. That's how deep the mind game ran. A kingdom built not on talent, but on fear and loyalty. That's the world Toni Braxton walked straight into. A world where everyone froze the second Birdman stepped in the room. The air changed when he arrived, like people were scared to even breathe wrong. For Toni, that didn't feel like love. It felt like a warning. Around him, respect looked more like worship, and Toni wasn't built for that. She'd already fought through lupus, heartbreak, and the music industry itself just to keep her peace. No way she was about to let any man, no matter how powerful, take control of her soul. So she did the only thing a strong woman could do. She broke the spell and walked away. And that's when the whole Birdman aura started falling apart. The power, the mystery, the boss image. It all started to look fragile. That short, secret marriage between Toni and Birdman became the first domino in his downfall. Sure, they'd gone public back in 2016, flashing smiles and luxury like a power couple, but behind the glam, Everything was cracking. When they secretly tied the knot last year, fans thought it was the start of a new chapter, but the honeymoon didn't even last a week. Just 2 days after the ceremony, Toni filed for divorce, calling it an irretrievably broken union. That's not heartbreak. That's someone escaping the trap. She later withdrew the petition in January 2025, probably trying to handle things quietly. But by mid-2025, their social media told the whole story. Every photo gone, every post deleted. The silence said it all. The love story was over for good. Then Birdman did what Birdman always does. He went online and started firing shots. He accused Toni of using him for money, called her a gold digger, and even claimed she pawned her engagement ring while demanding $160 million payout. That's when the drama exploded. Blogs lit up. Gossip pages ran wild, and reaction live streams turned it into a cultural circus. Suddenly, everyone was choosing sides. Some defending Toni as a survivor of a toxic empire, others riding for Birdman like he was the one betrayed. It turned into a loyalty war, split right down the middle. The R&B world versus the hip-hop kingdom. And for the first time, Birdman wasn't controlling the story. The internet was. Birdman's reputation took a major hit after that split, and it hit different depending on where you looked. In R&B and pop circles, he got painted as cold and manipulative, the kind of man who treats love like a business deal. But in the trap and southern rap scene, his never back down attitude only made him look more like a boss. People said, "That's Birdman. He don't fold for nobody." His image stayed powerful in the streets, but his credibility outside hip-hop is started to crumble. Financially, he managed to dodge big losses since Toni's divorce filings got tossed out. But the damage wasn't just about money. Toni had the public's sympathy at first. Fans saw her as the woman who escaped a controlling empire. But when that $160 million claim dropped and talk of a missing $5 million ring surfaced, the internet flipped the script. Suddenly, old headlines about Toni's bankruptcies started making the rounds again, and a few brands quietly hit pause on sponsorships. Still, the scandal brought her name roaring back into the spotlight. Streams for her classic hits shot up overnight, and her documentary work about women's financial independence started getting fresh love. In a strange way, the chaos gave her career a second wind. Proof that even heartbreak can turn into power when you own your story. Meanwhile, over at Cash Money, things weren't looking smooth either. The feud exposed deep cracks inside the empire. Birdman's shaky relationships with legacy artists, producers, and mid-tier acts finally came to light, especially the ones still tied to Lil Wayne's Young Money. They started freezing collabs and distancing themselves from anything stamped with Birdman's name once the feud blew up online. But Birdman being Birdman, he flipped the drama into hustle. He used the controversy as promo fuel for rich gangs' releases, turning every headline and live stream debate into free marketing. He knew how to spin attention into profit, but even with the streams up, the respect was gone. When the dust finally settled, Birdman still had the keys to Cash Money, but not the heart of the culture anymore. His empire was intact, but his legacy felt hollow. Toni, on the other hand, walked away with empathy, momentum, and her dignity, even if some skeptics still whispered that her timing was just a little too perfect. The old Cash Money alliance, gone for good. The brotherhood that once ruled Southern hip-hop finally cracked under the weight of greed and secrets. And when people talk about money, they're not just talking about hits and platinum chains. They're talking about the dark financial rituals that kept Cash Money spinning for decades. Even Jada Kiss couldn't resist taking a jab at it on stage, laughing, "I love Bird's money." But everybody knew there was truth hiding in that joke. No one can deny what Cash Money did for the culture. They shaped Southern hip-hop, brought a whole new sound to the world, and built an empire of hits. But behind the champagne toasts and private jets, the business was a maze of manipulation. The fancy cars, the designer fits, the mansions, all props in a show designed to keep artists chasing a dream they could never fully own. For years, the label was run like a pyramid, every artist owing more than they made, every deal written to keep Birdman on top. Dozens of artists said their advances never really came, or came as recoupable debts that they could never escape. No transparency, no freedom, just confusion and contracts built for control. Even legends got caught in the web. T.I.'s $10 million lawsuit exposed just how deep the trap went. His teenage contract had one lawyer repping both him and the label. That's a setup if there ever was one. A total conflict of interest that guaranteed every deal leaned straight in Cash Money's favor. And then came Lil Wayne's war, the battle that pulled the curtain all the way back. His 2017 lawsuit accused Cash Money and Universal of doing business behind his back, playing games with his streaming money and publishing rights. They allegedly twisted numbers, delayed payments, and forced him into a corner until he finally settled for less than he earned. Just like Suge Knight ran Death Row out west, Birdman had his own version down south. All power, no mercy, and no exit once you signed that dotted line. Birdman had a genius and ruthless way of keeping control. He'd flash the cash, the cars, the ice, but those weren't just flexes, they were payments, symbolic offerings meant to keep his artists locked in, even after the spotlight faded. It wasn't real freedom, it was a golden cage. Those flashy gifts said, "You're rich because of me, so don't ever forget it." And behind those glittering chains and Bugattis, the real deal was buried in contracts that nobody could fully understand. See, back in 1998, Cash Money signed that legendary deal with Universal, the infamous 80-20 profit split that changed the game forever. Sounds great for the label, right? Because it was. That deal became Birdman's blueprint. He copied that same model for every artist that came through. It was loyalty by contract, and it kept him sitting on top while his artists chased checks that never arrived. Masters, almost never owned by the performers. Royalties, so foggy that even accountants gave up trying to trace them. Birdman used to brag, Universal never owned nothing. And technically, he was right, but it also meant nobody else did either. Even the people who helped him rise, like Wendy Day, the same woman who negotiated that first Universal deal, said she never saw the money she was promised. And Birdman's cold-blooded catchphrase became legendary in industry circles. Sue me. When I gotta pay you, you'll get paid. That line alone told you everything about how he ran business. Eventually, Universal stepped in, again. Not to fix the problem, but to protect their own. They started covering Cash Money's debts in exchange for tighter control over distribution. That move flipped unpaid royalties into corporate leverage, turning the artist's missing money into bargaining chips. Insiders later started calling it ghost royalties, money that should have gone to the people making the hits, but instead got funneled up the ladder into silent power plays. Inside that empire, loyalty bought you Lambos, jewelry, private jets, and front row treatment. But the minute you stepped out of line, your career went ice cold. Late checks, shelved albums, ghosted calls, even quiet blacklisting. Meanwhile, the public still saw the illusion. The helicopters, the mansion shoots, the Stuna Island lifestyle, all part of the myth that Cash Money was unstoppable. But behind that myth was a machine straight out of the medieval era. One ruler, total control, and everyone else fighting to keep their spot at the table. Birdman and Slim ran Cash Money like kings on a throne. Nobody made a move without their blessing. The younger generation, like Jacquet and others under the label, showed almost blind loyalty. They pledged allegiance for life, even though most of them had zero real control. These weren't mystical rituals or secret spells. This was something scarier. Habits built over decades that weaponized money to keep power locked at the top. It was proof that behind all the shine and bling, the system was never about family. It was about control. But power like that always cracks eventually. And 2025 was the year the empire started to shake. Some of the biggest names in Cash Money began making silent moves behind Birdman's back. Quiet, strategic, but loud enough for anyone paying attention. The tension inside the camp was boiling. Some artists were flexing, showing they didn't need the label anymore, while others stayed quiet, scared to lose their spot. But one thing was clear, everybody had an agenda. Lil Wayne, the heart of the brand, the one who helped build Cash Money's golden era, made it crystal clear. He was done pretending. His old beef with Birdman had been cooling for years, but this time, the heat came back full blast. During the Hot Boys reunion tour, Birdman tried to hype up the crowd mid-speech, and Wayne straight up walked off stage with the crew, leaving him hanging in front of thousands. Cameras caught it, clips hit the internet, and fans went wild. And that wasn't the only moment. Just weeks before that, at Lil Louisiana Fest 2025, Birdman tried to give a heartfelt shout out to his late mother, Ms. Gladys. But Wayne cut him off mid-sentence, snatching the mic and switching the topic. It was icy, public, and loud. Everyone watching knew what that meant. The forgiveness from their 2018 settlement was dead and gone. Whatever peace they made had expired. Old wounds reopened, old checks resurfaced, and old rules got broken. The so-called Cash Money family wasn't family anymore. It was a cold business war waiting to explode. Wayne was done playing nice. This was his comeback era, his time to take back control. He wasn't just rapping, he was reclaiming his legacy. Every move, every verse felt like a statement. I built this, now I'm taking it back. Meanwhile, Juvenile took a different route. He stayed cool, kept his tone classy, but fans could still feel the frustration bubbling underneath. During the Cash Money Millionaire's 30th anniversary tour, Juvenile finally let a little truth slip, calling out Birdman's own booking team for underpaying or flat out sidelining fellow Hot Boy Turk after more money disputes. He said it straight. It put him in a weird position, torn between loyalty to the crew and doing right by his people. By the summer, though, Juve switched up his energy, focused back on the music, channeling all that tension into his new projects. He wasn't trying to feed the drama, but everyone could tell. He saw through the game. Loyal, yes, but not blind. Then came Drake, the smoothest chess player in the room. Kendrick might have called him a snake, but the truth is, Drake's always been strategic. While everyone else was trading shots online, he stayed quiet, plotting in silence. And when he finally made his move, it hit like a bomb. His 2025 lawsuit against Universal, the very plug that handled Birdman's distribution. It wasn't personal beef, it was pure business chess. Drake was making power plays, slowly building his independence, while still dipping into the Cash Money orbit whenever it benefited him. That's smart money right there. And let's not forget Nicki Minaj, the queen who knows how to move in silence. She didn't pick sides or throw shade, but her actions said everything. While Birdman bragged in interviews about making over $2 billion off Wayne, Drake, and Nicki, claiming he'd paid them handsomely, Nicki didn't say a word. No confirmations, no denials, nothing. Just dropped her own projects through her own imprint, her own connections, not Birdman's pipeline. That's how you move like a boss, staying respected, keeping your distance, and letting your success speak for itself. While Birdman tried to flex ownership, his biggest stars were already slipping from his grip, proving that power built on control never lasts forever. Smart move, because by the end of 2025, Birdman's so-called Big Three weren't really his anymore. Lil Wayne, Juvenile, Drake, and Nicki Minaj, the very artists who built his empire, had each found their own path, and none of those roads led back to him. Wayne's public walk-offs, Juvenile's calm but pointed diplomacy, Drake's cold legal chess moves, and Nicki's silent but powerful independence, together, they painted a picture of rebellion wrapped in class. Loyalty only went so far, and every one of them finally decided to own their story. Behind the cameras, the whispers were wild. Secret lawsuits, backdoor exits, and new alliances forming in the shadows. Everyone could feel it. Something big was brewing, and one wrong move could flip the entire Cash Money universe upside down. By late 2025, the label wasn't running like a music powerhouse anymore. It was running on chaos. The studio, the tours, even the staff meetings all felt like pressure cookers ready to blow. Cash Money had turned into ground zero for hip-hop drama. The tension that used to stay locked behind closed doors started leaking into the public eye through social media rants, leaked clips, and tense moments caught on live streams. Fans couldn't look away. Every new headline was another episode in a saga that just wouldn't end. And Birdman, he was trying his hardest to hold the empire together with sheer control, micromanaging release dates, blocking collaborations, even deciding which tracks could drop and which had to stay buried. It wasn't about creativity anymore, it was about authority. The more he tried to tighten his grip, the faster the loyalty slipped away. By the end, Cash Money wasn't the shiny dynasty it once was. It was a battlefield dressed in luxury, where egos clashed louder than beats. The empire that once ran the South was now cracking under its own legend. And if you've been following this wild ride, you know this story isn't done yet. The next move could change hip-hop forever. So if you want more shocking truths, wild drama, and deep dives into the biggest scandals in the game, don't forget to hit that subscribe button to Juicy Reel and stay locked in for what comes next.